Okay, so lifting off from our previous conversation where we were talking about primary representational systems and our mechanic dynamic spectrum. So the primary representational system is referring to how the world is represented to us. So it's referring to the systems at which we intake information from reality, from the outside world, and how we perceive that information and how we perceive it first. And the parts of the reality that have, I suppose, the biggest influence on us. So as we were speaking and we were listening for the predicates, we were listening for the particular words that help us indicate where someone's primary rep system may sit. We were speaking with you about words like listening and hearing, right? That were all words that were pointing towards auditory. So saying that for you, your model of the world is very much governed by what you hear, and therefore what you expect other people to hear as well. And so there are 4 primary representational systems. There are the visual, there is the auditory, there is the kinesthetic, and there is the audio digital. So visual is pretty self-explanatory. It's our eyes, right? So we want someone to see what we're saying. We want someone to get the picture, yeah? And then auditory is we want someone to hear what we're saying. We want someone to listen to us. And then kinesthetic is feel. It's all about feeling. Do you feel what I'm saying? Like, I really feel that. And then audio digital is all about thinking. So it's where we internalize everything. So it makes sense. So let me think about that. I don't know, that doesn't make sense. So I say it a lot, like it makes sense because I'm audio digital, right? So VAKAD is what we call them. So we have what we call a primary representational system test that we're going to do today that just gives you like a really quick idea of where your rep systems sit and the hierarchy of those rep systems and what comes first, second, third, and fourth. So therefore, when somebody is explaining something to you and communicating something to you, you can understand why you may or may not be taking in information as efficiently as you possibly can. So this is where it becomes really handy for us to know what our rep systems are, so we can put ourselves in the best situations for learning and for taking in information. Because if we're somebody who's visual and all we're doing is listening to information and we can't see anything, right, it can be sometimes very difficult. Whereas if somebody shows us a visual, like drawing or a picture to go along with the information, then we can filter it through our primary representational system and get more out of the information, right? And just the same as if somebody is kinesthetic, for example, and they really need to feel, they need to touch things with their hands, and the system is very AD, where it's just all about doing a theoretical test, then the person that needs to touch things with their hands is going to really struggle because they learn through touch, because that's how they intake the world. Yeah. So you see a lot of this, and if this is a great example of like tradespeople, or people who like carpenters and cabinet makers and people who and artists who work with their hands and who create with their hands, and they need that kinesthetic touch, right? And they learn through doing rather than through thinking, right? So all of these representational systems help us to learn more efficiently and help us to therefore alter our own communication to others. So therefore we can figure out what rep system they use, change the words and change the way we give them the information so they get a fuller understanding of what's happening. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Fantastic. So let's do the rep systems test. Are you ready?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to share my screen with you and bring it over here. Cool. And then considering that you're on that end, so all that we'll do is I'm going to just read out what the statements are, and then you just tell me where to number them. So you can see my mouse, yeah, and you can see the Excel spreadsheet.
Yep.
Okay, great. Cool. So with the rep systems test, we're going to number everything 4, 3, 2, 1. So I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to give you 4 different answers, and the closest to describing you is number 4. So that's the one that's most accurate. And then 3 for next, 2 for second last, and 1 for least descriptive of you. Cool?
Yeah.
So, first question. I make important decisions based on gut feelings, which way sounds the best, what looks best to me, precise review and study of the issues. So what sounds most appealing to you?
Go with gut.
Beautiful. Cool. And what's next?
Sounds best.
Cool. 2.
What looks best, and then review.
Fantastic. Okay. During an argument, I'm most likely to be influenced by the other person's tone of voice, whether or not I can see the other person's point of view, the logic of the other person's argument, whether or not I am in touch with the other person's true feelings.
The same one. 4, 3, 2, 1.
4, 3, 2. Easy. I most easily communicate what is going on with me by the way I dress and look, the feelings I share, the words I choose, my tone of voice.
That's a tough one, actually. The way I dress and look would be number 1.
What? Yep.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, and 4 in that order.
Cool. It is easiest for me to find the ideal volume and tuning on a stereo system, select the most intellectually relevant point in an interesting subject, select the most comfortable furniture, select rich, attractive color combinations.
Four, 3, 2, 1.
Select the most accurate. I am very attuned to the sounds of my surroundings. I am very adept at making sense of new facts and data. I am very sensitive to the way articles of clothing feel on my body. I have a strong response to colors and to the way a room looks.
Four, 3, 2, 1.
4, 3, 2, 1. Drum roll, please. Well, I'm going to say this. I'm really happy that you didn't make me look silly by not being auditory. That's what I'm really happy about.
When I was going through the answers in my head, I kept trying not to laugh because everything that I was saying was like number 4 was like based on sounds, and it just
yeah. And so its sound for you is through the roof, right? Like it's
look at that.
yeah. So thank you for not making me look stupid. I appreciate
that.
I
always thought it was visual because I'm like, I need to see something to be able to understand something.
Yeah, right. Which strangely is actually audio digital.
Yeah.
In this, I would say, and I'm only saying that because of the mixture of predicates that you used in that, which is I need to see something to understand it, meaning that understanding is usually a thinking. So audio, digital, like digital, like it's like you create, you can create pictures in your head and talk them over and go through all of the details of the picture in your head before you interpret anything. So I'd say that that's more is more of an audio digital trait, which is for you the next largest, obviously. But yeah, so you can see that your primary representational system is hugely auditory, which makes a massive difference, you know. So it's probably why you know, I'm sure that if you go into a crowded place and there's noise coming from all angles and you can't hear what someone's saying, it's incredibly frustrating and you hate it.
Yes, I do. Very much so.
Yeah, and you get distracted by little sounds, and if there's a sound that's slightly out of place, you pick it up really quickly, and it's giving you meaning to the world, right? You're finding meaning in those things.
Actually,
so then,
to give you a quick example, I have to listen to music when I'm working, and then a song was on, and I was trying to concentrate, and the song was irritating me because it was just not the right song that I just wanted to hear at that point of time. And I'm like, I was so frustrated, I turned the whole thing off. I'm like, nah, I can't listen to this right now.
Right, interesting. Which is probably where the AD comes into it, because then the AD needs everything to make sense, and it like everything has to like really like work out in the brain, and sometimes you can, like with me, I'm AD, and if there's music playing when I'm trying to work, I can't work. Like it flat out just cancels it out for me. Like I can't think, because I need to repeat things back to myself when I'm speaking. So then if the music was wrong for you, as you then go from auditory to AD, where you internalize it and you talk about it to yourself, if the music's wrong, I'm assuming that it interrupts the internalization of talking the information over in your head to then make sense of it.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, sweet. So that is that's your primary representational system. So auditory, as we thought, pretty cool, hey?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you can imagine that you know, as people are walking around the earth, there's people walking around with all these different representational systems, and so they're effectively speaking slightly different languages to each person that they come in contact with, based on their own rep system. So people can be speaking in visualizations or in kinesthetic tones or in audio digital fashions to someone else who's none of those things, right? And so we can interpret information very differently from the next person along. So our sort of token test, and one of our token things, and the reason we named it our company Two Minds Project, is the mechanic dynamic spectrum, as we call it. So, you know, as you can see in the logo, and you've seen before in the logo, we have the two distinct sides of the brain. The mechanic here, where the edges are a little bit more rigid, and we've got like the nuts and bolts in the middle, and the dynamic, where the edges are a little bit smoother. So the mechanic being the person who is very detail orientated and loves to look at loves to look at the smaller picture, as in the detail within the picture, and work within those details until everything is perfect before moving on. And then you have the dynamic, who loves the bigger picture, where everything is chunked up and everything is all about living in the future and all the things that you're going to achieve, and often is less obsessed with the little details that move along to get to the destination. So mechanic dynamic is just a what's the word? It's just like a measure, I suppose. You can be full mechanic, you can be full dynamic, or you can be anywhere along the spectrum between the two. So it's not to say that a dynamic has no mechanic skills and a mechanic has no dynamic skills and that they can't be learned. It's just an idea. It just gives you an idea of, generally speaking, what you enjoy to do, what you enjoy doing, and what comes quite naturally easy to you, right? And it also then gives you the ability, once you know where you are and what's easy for you and what you enjoy doing, it gives you the ability to then figure out where in your life you can create what we call a mechanic dynamic synergy, where all of the things that, so for me, right, I'm super dynamic, Craig is super mechanic, right? So we have a really great synergy, because all the things that I'm not so good at, that stress me out, he's really good at, and vice versa. Yeah. So we were kind of begged with that, you know, that question of being able to say, like, well, I don't need to do the mechanical stuff. Someone else enjoys it and is really good at it. So I'll let him do it, and then I can do more dynamic things. So we're able to create this synergy in our life. So that's why we created this test. And this is just a simple version of the test. And effectively, what we're going to do, because I can't give this one to you, I'm just trying to think how I'm going to do this. I wonder if I can. I know what I'll do. We'll have to be a little bit tricky here, and I'm going to open this up as well. Cool. So what we're going to do is, here's the idea. So effectively, this is the spectrum test. So we're going to read these two things on either side, the two questions on either side. And then as I slide the mouse from one side to the other, just tell me where you think you sit along the spectrum in terms of whether you're more to this side or more to that side or somewhere in the middle. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Cool. So in the past, I found myself overthinking stuff, or in the past, I found myself underthinking stuff.
Overthinking.
Cool. So if I was to slide this, if I was to place a dot here on the slider, whereabouts would it be? Just let me know when you want me to stop.
I only see the red lines that you've just made.
Say that again.
I can only see the red lines that you've made. I can't see.
Oh, you can only see the red line. Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Interesting.
Mm.
Okay. Okay, cool. So right. So I just need to. Why is. Can you see that now? Can you see the test now? No, just the lines?
Yep.
Interesting. Okay, so, okay, that's right. Let's do it this way. So back to the question. So I found myself overthinking stuff versus I found myself underthinking stuff. So if overthinking is on the left here and underthinking is on the right here, where along the line would you place yourself?
At the very left hand.
Like here.
Yeah. I was definitely a big overthinker.
Yeah, fair enough. Cool. So the next one is, I feel content mastering one or two tasks, or I felt I wanted to be good at trying to do everything.
Everything.
Cool. And whereabouts along the line?
If that was on the right, I'd probably say all the way to the right.
Classic. Funny. Great. Okay. And next, I found myself most often looking for the issues, or in the past, I found myself most often looking for the possibilities.
Issues.
Cool. And where along the spectrum would you be on that?
Probably all the way to the left.
Cool. Next question. In the past, I would excel at perfecting very detailed work. Or in the past, I would get overwhelmed at detailed tasks.
Can you actually repeat that?
Sure. In the past, I would excel at perfecting very detailed work. In the past, I would get overwhelmed at detailed work.
Perfect.
Cool. And where along the spectrum would you be in terms of effective?
Halfway in between, like a quarter of the way. I was going to say halfway between halfway, quarter of the way. So to the left a bit. Yeah.
Great. Cool. Next question. In the past, I found it easy to relax in one spot for long periods of time. In the past, I found it difficult to stay in one spot for long periods of time.
Difficult.
Difficult to stay in one spot? Cool. And where along the line would you be for that?
All the way to the right.
Cool. Now, in the past, I took notice of what is in front of me more than what is around me. Or in the past, I took notice of what is around me more than in front of me.
Around me.
Cool.
Probably all the way to the right.
Great. In the past, I had excelled at continually working on a specific task. In the past, I had trouble with consistency with specific tasks.
Bit of both, really.
Cool.
It depends what the task was. So.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it's in the middle. Just yeah.
Cool. Okay. In the past, I found myself overestimating how long it takes to complete a task. In the past, I found myself underestimating how long it takes to complete a task.
I feel like overestimating about quarter of the way.
Cool. Okay, in the past, I found my attention grew the longer the task developed. In the past, I found myself losing attention on a task if it took too long.
No, I have to say the first one. It grew. About a quarter of the way.
Say that again.
The first
a quarter.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. In the past, I found myself finding it hard to start tasks rather than finishing them. Or in the past, I found myself finding it difficult to finish tasks and easy to begin.
Yeah, to finish. All the way to the right.
Cool. So difficult to finish and easy to begin. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool. Sweet. So we have effectively a spectrum now, right? A score. So it gives you an idea of where you sit within the mechanical spectrum and where you sit within the dynamic spectrum. So the dynamic spectrum is on dynamic on this side, mechanic on this side, and then obviously you've got this one here that's kind of halfway in the middle where you sort of sit between the two. So all this is showing you is the traits that generally resonate with a dynamic, and the traits that generally resonate with a mechanic, and what you have developed in yourself. And so it gives you a bit of an idea of where your strengths lie, where your weaknesses lie, what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you like doing, what you don't like doing. And so what it does is it just gives us another tool to figure out where we need to potentially improve. And that if we're really awesome at this, like all the way to one side here, then it means that all the way over here, there's generally some sort of a weakness, right? So then we can build in the mechanic dynamic synergy where we create synergies to be able to balance out the things that we're not good at. In business, for example, that may mean that you buy a new software. It may mean that you use a calendar. It may mean that you get a virtual assistant. It may mean that you get a CEO. Like, it may mean a whole range of different things to allow you to balance out what you're really good at versus what you're not so good at, and effectively what you want to do. Because generally what you're good at is going to make you happy, and what you're not good at is it can often lead to stress or overwhelm. So if we're balancing that stuff out, then we're managing those stresses and overwhelms, right? So I'll just bring this one back. Yeah, so effectively that's what the spectrum is all about. It's just showing you where you're more mechanical, where you're more dynamic, and what works better for you. So I'll send you that spectrum sheet so you can do it on your end. And I will also, there's another sheet that comes with it as well. That's like you give it like a number score, and you get a percentage at the bottom. So I'll email you those through as well, so you can do it yourself and do it on the other one. And again, what it does is it's just highlighting those areas that make you happy, where you're really good, and the areas that stress you out and that you're not so good at, to give you the opportunity to know whether a job's good for you, a relationship's good for you, a hobby's going to be good for you, all of those things, right? Because there's no point putting a dynamic and a mechanic seat in business, and a mechanic and a dynamic seat in business, and so on and so forth. And therefore, when people come into your lives, whether it's your employees, people that you work with, or your family members or your friends, you can make sense of why certain tasks may stress them out, why certain tasks might be easy, why it might be hard. And so you can help to manage those tasks based on creating that synergy between mechanic and dynamic work. Yeah. Awesome.
Wow. That was pretty cool though.
Yeah, definitely.
And some of the answers straight away, because my first reaction was to laugh.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's me.
Yeah. It looks straight to your core, doesn't it?
Yeah. No, I like that. And ever since we had that podcast a few weeks ago, I've noticed more about the things I say, the things I hear, the why can't you listen to me?
Yeah.
And certain noises, like for example, I was in the city the other day and I had a meeting, and I just did it on my phone. So I sat down outside a cafe, but it was on the main road, and I haven't been to the city in months because of COVID. And then I can hear trucks, and then there was a crash, and then the trams are going past, and there's all these cars. I'm like, oh, this is too much. It's too much. It's too much like stimulation and everything. And I'm like, and then you popped in my head. I'm like,
yeah, I have a tendency of doing that.
Because I never thought of it. Never thought that. I was just always, oh yeah, I'm a visual person. I need to see things.
Right. Yeah.
It's like
and chances are that there was somebody in your life, like early on, who was visual, who said those things, and you just adopted their model of the world, like their belief that they were visual and they needed to see things, and made it your own, even though yours is completely different.
Someone told me about 8 years ago.
Right.
That you're a visual person.
There you go.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I kind of feel like I am, because I need to see things to do things.
Yeah. And there you go. Like, it's that simple. Like, again, our brain works on plausibility, and it only needs to make a fact plausible. And if it seems plausible, it can create a belief just like that. So when someone says you're visual, and then all you need to do is be able to go like, yeah, no, I need to see stuff, and then it's plausible, and so now it becomes a belief, even when it doesn't necessarily align at the core. And yeah, like it is very simple. Cool. And have you noticed in others around you now, like their representational systems? Have you noticed how their words may differ, and what sort of rep systems they have as well?
Starting to. My kids are a little difficult to really understand. But yeah, I think my youngest might be audio as well. He's very sensitive to sounds, like extreme. And words make a really big impact on him as well, like if he's hearing those words. So I think maybe he's very, very similar.
Yeah, cool.
My eldest, I'm not sure yet. I think he's visual. I think he knows things. Yeah. But it's interesting because, I didn't learn about this stuff growing up, and then all of a sudden people speak different languages, and whereas like what they're feeling and what they're communicating, it's really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just goes to show, like, how we can be listening in such a shallow way for the other person when we're not listening inside of other people's model of the world based on how they actually take the world in. And so these little things are great tools, because they just make a huge impact on how we can communicate with other people, and the depth at which we can get our point across, and the depth at which we can give information to others. So fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Good.
Well, that was super fun.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me again.
No, it was great. I really enjoyed it. I got to learn more. So that's I love to learn. So yeah, it was really good. Thank you.
You're more than welcome. Have an absolutely amazing day. And yeah, I'm off to work on the business.